Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May. We know her as our forensic and clinically trained psychologist. She is the president and co-founder of AMA and Associates. She is the president and founder of Celeste Productions Incorporated. She is also an editor, author, musician. She's a columnist with the Michigan Women's Forum, which the column was titled Phenomenal Michigan Women. She was a contributor for the Michigan Chronicle, and she was a part of an anthology entitled Stars, Scholars Teaming to Alleviate Racism in Society. And in 2023, she received the Distinguished Psychologist Award, MPAF. Good evening and welcome to the show, Dr. Angie. How are you?
Good evening. I am feeling fantastic, blessed. And let me be the first to say to you on your show, Happy New Year. Happy
Happy New
2025.
Year to you as well. I know we
Thank
haven't
you.
seen each other since 2024.
That's true. So long ago.
Yes, I know. I know, right in the midst of everything. So let's get right to it. Our topic tonight is minimizing consumption. Social media and news, it is too much. Okay, so Dr. Angie, we are in week 2. Week 2
Week 2, yes.
of the latest episode in the saga of the United States. The Republicans have unleashed a flurry of executive orders, mass deportations, freezing of funding, just so many things. And then there are rumors of things that are happening, and people are seeing things in different cities. And with social media being the town square, of course, everybody's sharing. And just like people are sharing, people are also ingesting all of that information. Dr. Angie, I don't know about you, but I know I've grown anxious. There have been times where I had to put my phone down. I had to turn the news off. I was like, too much. I have to protect my peace. Let me go get my Bible. Let me get a cup of coffee, some water. Let me go read a book, something, or watch a movie, something. So I'm not focused on all of this chaos that has been unleashed on us. Dr. Angie, why is it good? Because we already know it's too much. But why is it good to take a break from social media and the news?
Well, Dr. Kim, I do believe you said a good part of it. You said at least one or two of the most important reasons to take a break from social media. And one of those things that you said was that when you step away, you said that you do it to protect your peace.
Yes.
So as my mother-in-law would say, there it is. There it is. To protect your peace. And what does that mean? That means to protect
Mhm.
what we would call your sanity. Uh,
Yes.
and you also talked about feeling anxious,
Hmm.
recognizing that it begins to feel like it's too much. I'm sure a lot of people share that feeling.
Yes.
But yeah, protecting your peace, meaning not just leaving yourself open to,
Hmm.
as you said, consuming just all the things, all the stuff that's being thrown out into the public from the White House and elsewhere. Um, one can become very anxious, partly because there are damaging things coming our way. There are cuts being made to very, very important programs, like we were just talking about before we came
Hmm.
on today.
Hmm. Hmm.
And those programs, that federal funding, and any and all of the other things that are coming our way, those have real effects on real lives. And so the anxiety one feels when we keep reading about what's next and what's next and waiting, holding the breath for the next thing to come. It's understandable. It is
Hmm.
understandable. So I would say definitely one of the most important reasons to take a break from social media and step away is, as you said, to protect our peace so that we
Hmm.
are not living in a state of anxiety all the time. So that's we weren't designed that way. And staying in that constant state of anxiety, of that breath holding, so to speak, that has a negative effect on our mental health,
Mhm.
on our physical health, on our emotional well-being, spiritually, all the things, all of that. So yeah, definitely protecting one's peace. And then also, second reason that it's important to take a break from social media is it's a way of reminding ourselves that we do have choices and
Mhm.
control over
Yes.
more than we might think.
Mhm.
um it's called a, it's called a rabbit hole when we get in there, and even if it's fun stuff, even if it's the, like you were saying, the cooking shows, or the,
Mhm.
I love looking at the funny cat and dog stuff, or
Yep.
hair videos or whatever, even if it's fun and can be a breath of fresh air and all that, all that's fine. But it's called a rabbit hole because we feel like after a while, you're spiraling down there, and you lose. What do we lose? We lose track of time.
Mhm.
We lose
Mhm.
track of how long we've been there. We lose because it just becomes a very much like a tunnel vision.
Yep.
One thing to the next thing, good or bad. So for the quote unquote bad, for the negative information that we're being inundated with at any time, but especially at this time, post the election, in our country, that affects not only the United States of America, but we know it has effects on people around the world who have investments and relationships here. Um, that inundation of negative things, it can begin to feel like you have no control. You
Mhm.
have no say in the matter. And that can just increase our anxiety even more.
Right.
So stepping away is really important, as a reminder to ourselves that there are things we can do to govern the amount of information we take in, the nature of the information that we take in, when we're going to take it in and when we're not. And that's really important also, to reclaim that reminder and that feeling that we do have some choices and some wherewithal. So those are two really important reasons to step away from social media. The third thing I would say also is, when I think about, and we've talked about this before. You've talked about social media and how, um, especially because there can be so much negativity out there, as we
Mhm.
know, um, how being on social media, not only is it, takes sucking time from us, but also, it's a way of, it can open us up to more negativity just from other people who are on it, and
Right.
the people spew. Um, so that's something else that I often think about when we're talking about consumption of
Mhm.
news and social media. On the one hand, it's the amount of it, and then there's also the nature of it. So I recommend that it's important to stay informed, and as you
Mhm.
had mentioned previously, narrowing it to a certain amount of time, giving ourselves
Mhm.
parameters, be on it for 30 minutes, or read a couple of headlines, and maybe, get a little in some article, whatever, and then step
Mhm.
away. So it's important to both stay informed of what's going on, uh, but then also be careful about taking in too much of it as well. Because we do need to stay informed. We do
Mhm.
need to know what's going on around us. We do need to know how to protect ourselves. We do need to
Mhm.
know our rights, all of those.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I definitely encourage people to follow what Dr. Bean has said, whom you had on towards the end of last year. Everyone watched that show. She had it with my good friend and colleague Eric Bean. He makes such excellent points about learning how to parse information that is
Mhm.
valid, well researched, and based in fact, from
Mhm.
opinions. It's fine if you just want to like listen to certain people's opinions and all of that, but it's important for us to know the difference so
Mhm.
that we can know how to proceed in a very chaotic world, and how to continue to prepare ourselves for what we need to do to keep ourselves and our friends as safe as possible, and
Mhm.
map out our next steps. So,
That was a great answer, Dr. Angie. I want to go back to what you were talking about in terms of control. So much of what we gather information from comes from social media. CNN, MSNBC, and I'm not sure of the other one. They're all cutting staff. MSNBC may be going away altogether. I know CNN, yes, that was the
Really? I
headline.
had not
Yeah,
heard that.
I'll have to go back and find it. That was like towards the end of the year, they weren't sure, or maybe it was the beginning of the year. They
Mhm.
weren't sure. There was like this big pushback, and I forget who owns MSNBC was saying it.
NBC or NBC.
Was it NBC or MSNBC?
No, no, no. I just meant that I know that NBC, that MSNBC is comes under NBC.
Yes,
I know
yes,
that.
correct,
Mhm.
correct. But
Yeah.
there was a Joy Ann Reed and some others were being pushed off. And
Oh.
so people were suggesting that MSNBC was going to go away.
Mhm.
So I'd have to go back and find the article to send it to you. CNN, I know for sure they were saying we're pushing everything toward, not everything, but a great deal of our operations towards digital.
Mhm.
And so everybody's on their phone, iPad, some type of device, in
Mhm.
your car, Alexa, Siri, all the things that we have. And for some, control may not be as easy. What
Mhm.
are some ways that people may be able to frame that in their mind that they
Mhm.
have control? Because some people, like you said, will go down a rabbit hole. I need to know. I need to know. Are
Mhm.
you know they and I'm going to use this and no offense against anyone. If you are a doomsday prepper, I get it because some of us
A what?
doomsday prepper.
Oh, okay. I
So
understand.
these are the people that, make sure they have the water. These are the
Right.
people that keep talking about an EMP is going to come and destroy us, and they have all these special bags and satellites that are um, not satellites, solar,
Mhm.
flashlights,
Mhm.
battery chargers, all these different things. And so all of a sudden you have someone who might have been mild-mannered or may have been okay, who all of a sudden has gone down the rabbit hole and their personality has totally changed now because they are so caught up in the fear
Mhm.
that they're like, "Huh, Angie, did you get your water?" And you're like, "What are you talking about? There's water in the kitchen." "No, you got to stockpile the water." And you're like, "Okay, you need to come." "No, you got to know. You got to." How do
Mhm.
you tell someone who is struggling with control like that,
Mhm.
how not necessarily even just to pull back, but how to recenter and focus on the piece? Because as you said right before we came on, we wrestle not against
Bless your blood.
thank you. We wrestle against principalities.
Mhm.
We wrestle with the spirit. And a lot of this is spirit, and we see it and we've talked about it. If you're cutting funding and you're cutting things like Head Start, you're cutting things like free lunch, hot lunch for children while they're in school.
Mhm.
Um, one of a group that I'm affiliated with, they are a arts and cultural program. They sent out an email today and say, "Hey, just to let you know, everything in the on this council has been frozen right now. We got to wait and see what happens." And so when we're talking about programming that enriches and uplifts young people and helps support them and families,
Mhm.
for some, they see it as um an apocalyptic moment.
Mhm.
There are lots of people. We know from the Bible says we don't know at what day or night or what day or time that things are going to end. But you
Mhm.
have people running up on social media. We in the end times. We in the end times. I'm like, well, we've been in the end times for an awful long time, according to the Bible. I'm just saying, we don't know the time nor the hour,
Mhm. That's
but
right.
we have so many people that fixate on that,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden it becomes that thing,
Right.
like you said, that they use to coerce other people to say, "See, the sky is falling, the sky is falling."
Mhm.
Yeah, there may be some rumble. There might even be some lightning. We got some bad stuff happening. But for the most part, everyone's okay.
Mhm.
This does not take away from deportations or any of the bad things that we've heard. But it's almost like you can walk in your house and close the door, and it can be quiet.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be this raging, um, doomsday,
Mhm.
whatever type of thing. Share your thoughts, Dr. Angie.
Well, where to begin? Um, well, again, the what you just said, the way you ended it in particular, everything you said is very
Mhm,
valid. But the way you ended it with that, you can walk in your door, walk in your home, close the door, and have peace. Um, that is indicative of, as I was saying before, exercising a choice.
mhm,
So going back to the apocalyptic scriptural based fear that people have, um, the stuff is, the stuff is real.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. It is.
Stuff is real and painful. However, for those who are coming from a scriptural basis and looking at the end times, etc.,
Mhm.
um, the scripture didn't just say the sky is going to fall and there it is.
Right.
There's actual more like instruction and information. I don't believe it said anywhere in there that, okay, so what you should do is panic and run and burrow on the ground and bury your head in the ground. I don't remember seeing any of that.
I don't either.
The being prepared had to do with inside
Yes.
and your spiritual preparedness. I
Yes.
also recall a whole lot of be at peace, take comfort,
Mhm,
let me, as the Lord is saying, let me fight your battles.
mhm.
All of that speaks to, for those who are, getting increasingly anxious due to what they're reading in the scripture and how it fits. Again, the stuff is real. It's nothing to play with. It is some scary stuff.
Mhm.
But and comma, one cannot stay afloat and panic at the same time.
Right.
So and that's even scripturally based as well. There's preparing and what that looks like. If you are concerned and you want to start stocking up, you can start stocking up. That is fine. There's a difference between taking certain actions
Mhm.
and being in a full-on panic.
Mhm.
So, if you want to take certain actions because you have the freedom to do so and you are concerned about what's coming down the pike and everything, you know, uh, we can do that. So far, we're still in a free country. We're still in a free
Right.
country. And you can choose to do that. But what we're talking about more deeply, what you're referring to really is that internal panic and that
Mhm.
internal terror and all of that. Um, we can definitely look to, as I always say, look to our history and then also
Mhm.
look at other countries historically and in the present.
Mhm.
We can look at what is going on with some of the wars right now, as an
Mhm.
example, where
Mhm.
people's lives, yes, the bad news is they really are being devastated. They are
Yes.
losing loved
Ukraine,
ones in
Ukraine,
Israel,
Gaza, and Israel. Mhm.
Gaza, Israel, Ukraine, absolutely. And
Mhm.
we can learn some things from our own history and from from what other countries have gone through. And we haven't even talked about um Cameroon and some of the countries
Yes,
in
and Rwanda and some of
oh,
these other
absolutely.
places. Yes.
Yes. Uh, real and devastating, absolutely. But what can we learn from humanity in all of these places as we watch people still get up and make day-to-day decisions about, okay, what can I do today?
Mhm.
What do I need to collect today? Let me check on my family.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I love to see, which feeds the heart and feeds the soul and really helps with the anxiety, is what can I do for the other?
Yes.
Some of the most wonderful work, some of the most healing work that I can even think of that I've seen people do when they themselves are in pain and dire strait
Mhm.
is to
Mhm.
reach out and see, well, how can I help my neighbor?
Yep. Yep.
Because they're going through something also. So that
Mhm.
is something that is, it doesn't fix everything, no, but what it does is it helps to shift perspective. And
Mhm.
much of that panic and that anxiety and that drowning in the rabbit hole and that rumination over and over again about what's going to a lot of that is quieted and cut through when you turn your attention to someone else who is in need.
Mhm.
Because we know that, as I was saying, as we know, the more when you give to somebody else, it feeds you. It helps you feel better. It helps you feel like, because it's true, it helps you feel like that you can make a difference in the
Absolutely.
world. Because
Mhm.
it's not just about our own family and our own household, but others in the world that we're
Okay.
connected to. It helps us, it reminds us that positive things are out here still, many, many positive things. And a lot of
Mhm.
those positive things are people.
Mhm.
For every story that we read about greed and negativity and folks trying to take from others and all of that, there are stories of the opposite, of people giving, of people trying to help their community members, helping animals, etc. So
Mhm.
it is important to remind ourselves of that, and it's important to try to get involved in doing some of those things if you're not already.
Mhm.
That's really important, and now more than ever, as you were
Yes.
talking about with funding being cut, and we feel for people asking, what can I do to help? That
Mhm.
goes a long way. That
Mhm.
that, that that's that's one really important thing too. Because a lot of that anxiousness, it's about feeling helpless.
Yes, absolutely, and
Absolutely about
fear,
feeling.
and just having fear and not understanding what to do with that fear because you are putting your, as we would say as Christians, you're putting your faith and your focus on the problem instead of the provider.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And then also what that panic and spiral, spiraling and all of
Mhm.
that does is it takes time away from problem solving also.
Yes. Yes.
So that getting, like you had said, that closing the door, if you don't have a door to close, just stand still for a minute. That idea of
Yes.
getting quiet, assessing the situation, taking a deep breath or several, think in terms of, okay, what do I have? What are my strengths? What can I build on?
Mhm.
Who can I help? And that sense of helplessness will know let's build on and begin to problem solve with where we are right now,
Mhm.
to move forward. When you were talking about Joanne Reed, I screenshotted actually one of her TikToks that I
Mhm.
went across. I'm not on TikTok, but I get the stuff through Instagram, and
Yes.
you may have seen it where she had words on the screen, but she was not speaking.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
You saw that? Yes, and she was saying, don't panic. Let's
Mm.
talk about what the things we can do. And she was saying, write it in paper in case you
Mhm.
misplace your phone. Have
Mhm.
reliable contacts with you who you could reach out in case
Mhm.
you get arrested.
Mhm.
All those kind of keep it with you. Phone numbers, etc. And she talked about an attorney. She didn't say this, but of course we know that there are free legal services
Mhm.
also. So
Mhm.
as an aside, but it's not really an aside, it has to do with what we're talking about. I would encourage people to, as you were saying earlier, with your family, gather resources. If you want to
Mhm.
gather water, that part's fine as well, but
Right,
also
right.
resources, other resources like Joanne Reed was saying,
Mhm.
contact, legal aid, get your paperwork together, make sure you have, try to get your passport or your birth certificate, just, etc. Uh, Problem solving.
Yep.
There's so
Mhm.
many stories that we're seeing and hearing, as we were saying, about people who voted this in
Yes.
because for a variety of reasons, but
Mhm.
among them is they heard the warnings but did not choose to believe
Mhm.
them. And so
Mhm.
now they're seeing the consequences.
Yep.
And so in one of those many stories that we're hearing, people finding out the hard way, unfortunately, was
Mhm.
this one young lady who's Latin. I can't remember if she's Mexican or not, um, or Honduras. I can't remember, one of the Latin
Mhm.
countries. And she had voted for this
Mhm.
that's in there now. And she was saying, she was crying actually, and she was saying that this was crazy, that she didn't expect this. And what really got her started getting her upset and really recognizing how real this was and that it was targeting herself and others, fellow
Mhm.
voters of uh the
Yeah, we
number
know.
47, Trump, I'll say his name, because he's a soul that it's prayer as far as I'm concerned as well.
Mhm.
But she was saying that what really brought it home was when I think it was her mother or her grandmother, or it was a father or grandfather, and then a mom, or in her life, and calling and saying and leaving her a message, and both of them, these two people in her life, very close family, saying, if something happens to me, or if they, if they come and take me, yeah, take care of the family. These are where the
Mhm.
papers are, those kinds of things. That's a very scary, scary place to
Yes.
be.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what they did with that scary place was he reached out, and he still was able to problem solve for his loved ones, to try to, so that at least in this place, I know that they'll be, I can put
Right.
things in place for them, as much as we can do those kinds of things. But if we're in a panic state and just, you know, out of the box with it, we're not going to be able to
Mhm.
think through what we need to do. And then, it's not, I don't say this lightly at all, but in terms of the deportation, just as an example of, one of the situations we're dealing with, people have been deported and have found ways to make a life,
Mhm.
or to create a community, or, work through it. So it's, yes, it is very scary. It is very real. One of the first things we always want to do is validate people's feelings and fear, for
Right.
sure. Absolutely.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then get centered again, to find your peace. If you are a spiritual person, if you are a religious person, and that grounds you wherever you find your grounding. And if you don't have one, now could be a good time to start,
Right. Mhm.
working towards maybe some deeper spiritual connection, because it has carried many a person through these kinds of times and worse.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, we want to encourage that, and to lean on each other as well, in
Absolutely.
positive ways. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If
Mhm.
it's not coming from the federal government, if those things are being cut off, which they are, what are ways in which we can wrap our arms around each other? Fortunately for us, we live in a state where we've got a fantastic governor.
Yes.
There are states in our union with governors who are really trying to look out for their people, and
Mhm.
they can do things on the state level. So that is helpful. So there is I would say, as damaging and as hurtful as the federal government can be, there
Mhm.
are people in our closer communities, in our cities and towns and, states, where, we have community that we can work on problem solving within
Absolutely.
our own communities, closer communities also.
Absolutely. What a great way to end our podcast, Dr. Angie. That was fantastic. Before we get out of here, tell us how we can follow you on social media. I know we're supposed to put a time limit on it, but tell us how we can follow you so we can get good information and positive vibes. And then tell us how we can reach you and all the things that you have coming up.
Thank you so much. Well, I can be reached on Facebook, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So all of those are just my full name. As you can see here, Angela Celeste May. I have a Facebook page that is just Angela Celeste May. And then I have a Dr. Angela Celeste May on Facebook also. And that one's dedicated specifically to music. As I said, YouTube also. I have my predominantly dealing with music stuff, vocal quick tips and genres of music, etc. Things around that. Let's see, Instagram I mentioned as well. There's my Instagram page,
Okay.
and then there's the Instagram with my sister, Michelle May, who is my business partner. She's the M in AMA and Associates Incorporated. We do counseling, consulting, and coaching. So we are on Instagram at AMA Associates, and Facebook also, AMA Associates, and our website, amaassociates.com. Um, what else? Gosh, I've got to update my Reverb Nation page, but but I can also be, you can also find me on LinkedIn. And if you want to reach out to me for things musically related, or my management company, you can contact Celeste, Celeste, M as in music, US as in Steve, and the number one at AOL.com also for bookings or whatever the case. Gosh, what do I have coming up? Some performances, as I mentioned before. Um, at the end of the year, I talked about this year coming up. So, um, teaching. I've got my music students I'm teaching, not teaching psychology this semester at
Okay.
university or college, but I have music students, and I will be performing in March in Kalamazoo and in April in New York, April 7th.
Okay.
No, no, April, we changed it to April 12th, I believe it is,
Okay.
in New
Okay.
York, and in Kansas City in May. So
Nice.
I'll have more details about that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, and I'll be doing, so that's with for some of the music stuff. Um, yeah, so look at all those socials and you'll find out what's going on, what I'm doing.
The
I
book.
yeah,
The
the
book.
boards I'm on and the or the programming coming up from the different boards I'm involved with, the Association of Black Psychologists. I'm a board member, Metro Detroit chapter. We have a big symposium that's coming up in October, so we're working on that now. Just
Mhm.
other good stuff. So, um,
What about your book?
oh, my book, which I forgot to have here. Thank you for asking. Yes.
You're welcome.
My book, Freedom. It's called Freedom. What is the experience of living without negative self-imposed limitations? And excuse me, it's a book that I did. It was my master's thesis, and I was encouraged to publish it as a book, which I did. I interviewed people from just many different backgrounds and a broad range of ages, from like the 20s into 60s, 70s, I believe. And the reason it's called Freedom is because I interviewed these people from different walks of life, dealing with ways in which they were able to navigate from feeling stuck in some manner in their lives, whether it was in their career, their relationship, self-esteem issues, whatever they may be, navigating from that and the process from getting to that to a place of freedom where that's concerned. And so 7 main themes came out of that, and that's what the book covers, all of that. So you can find that on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. You can also go to reverbnation.com/Angela Celeste May to get the music for my 2 albums. And my second album is on Reintroducing the Lady, is on iTunes as well. Thank you.
Nice. You're
Appreciate
welcome. Welcome. Thank you again, Dr. Angie. We always love it when you're here and you share with us. So we can't wait until next month when
Thank
we have another exciting topic to talk about.
thank you.
Thank you. And I know we'll always, this year, we're going to have lots of things to talk
All
about.
right. Yes, 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 we will.
So, thank you guys for tuning in. You know me, I'm Kimberly Bachelor Davis. You can find me everywhere on social media. So it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X as it's known, Snapchat, LinkedIn, TikTok. If you have it, I am on there. I'm on Spill, Fanbase, Lemonade, and a new the overseas red note. You can find me on every social media. It's Kimberly Bachelor Davis. Bachelor is spelled Batchelor. You can see this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Bachelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and Wisdom. And to learn more about me as an author, you can check out kimbdavis.com. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope you'll join us for our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.